try before you die or always wonder what if. I thank the Lord for this wonderful gift. Looking for strength in this crunch time. Yeah.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Crunch Time Sports Podcast. My name is Scott Mitchell.
And I'm Jalen Leach.
And today we have another very special episode with you today. Today we have a special guest, athletic director at Western Carolina University, Mr. Alex Gary. Alex, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into questions. So just some general background information, how you got from playing baseball here at Western Carolina through your degrees and then back into Western to be the first African-American athletic director Western's ever had.
Sure. So, yeah, I was a baseball player here at Western from 2001 to 2004. I had a really good experience, loved it here. Ended up getting an opportunity to play a little minor league ball for a couple of years in the Seattle Mariners system after transferring to VCU for actually my final year. I got released after a couple of years and had no idea what I wanted to really do with my life other than the fact that I loved intercollegiate athletics. I grew up a lot as a 17-year-old kid coming into college and leaving as a 21-year-old kid. And I knew that I didn't want to necessarily be a coach. The grind of a coach, having to recruit and do all that kind of stuff wasn't really what I was looking for. So I had an undergraduate degree in business. I always had a desire to kind of manage and lead a department and not necessarily be too much affiliated with one sport over another. And so got an opportunity to go back to UNC Charlotte and get my MBA, worked for that department for a couple of years, moved around a little bit, and decided that was the best path for me to eventually become an athletic director.
Okay, good stuff.
So you ended up working at Oregon State, correct, for quite a while? How was that experience compared to what we know as North Carolina compared to Great Out West in Oregon?
Yeah, I can actually, I guess, take you guys through all the kind of the different stops. I mentioned getting my MBA at UNC Charlotte, which was, again, a really cool experience. As I worked there, one of the things that we were able to do is raise money to start their football program right now. And so it was really cool to be able to be a part of that team at that particular time. After a couple of years with the 49ers, post-graduate school, I got an opportunity to work at the University of Michigan, which was outstanding. Worked in Ann Arbor for almost 4 years. Learned a lot about intercollegiate athletics, every part of intercollegiate athletics. Did a lot from a fundraising perspective. Was able to build some really nice relationships with some of their head coaches that I still know. And so still lean on them from time to time as different things come up, especially in a job like this when you're working with your own coaches to kind of help them navigate through some potential tough issues with their program or whatever the case may be. Being able to connect them with maybe more experienced coaches that you've been around in the past, or just coaches maybe that have the same amount of experience, but can just provide a different lens on whatever situation that they're looking at. But after the University of Michigan, I got a chance to go to the University of Maryland and worked there for about 3.5 years, a little bit over 3.5 years, 6 miles outside of Washington, D.C. When you kind of compare D.C. to Cullowhee, North Carolina, there are certainly some differences.
Without a doubt.
D.C. is definitely a professional sports town. A lot of people, a lot of traffic, the whole nine. Being here in Cullowhee is certainly more of a family pace, more of a specific college atmosphere, which is really welcoming, especially for this community. But loved my experience at the University of Maryland. Learned a lot. Still have a lot of really good friends there that I'm able to lean on at different times for different things. Even trying to hopefully schedule some games with some of those folks that I've been affiliated with in the past in different sports, which is kind of cool. And hopefully we can continue to try to work toward getting some of those things done. But loved my experience at Maryland. Most recently, as you mentioned, Scott, I was at the Oregon State University. And Oregon State University really did help prepare me for Western Carolina. Western Carolina, where we are now from a resource standpoint, we don't have as many resources as maybe some of our counterparts here in the Southern Conference, but we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to continue to increase resources. And even though Oregon State had a significantly higher budget than we do here at Western Carolina, relative to some of their competitors in the Pac-12, they were more at the bottom third resource wise. And so just from a living ability, I can really compare the two because the Pacific Northwest, the Oregon coast is absolutely gorgeous. If you like to do any sort of outdoor activity, there are not many better places to do it than maybe here in Western North Carolina. So with the leaves changing this time of year and all that this community and this area has to offer, there are a lot of similarities there. Oregon State being in Corvallis is a small college town, just like we have here in Colby. So a lot of similarities, and really think I was able to be prepared for the opportunity now at Western, from especially the place I was most recently at Oregon State.
Yeah. So hearing you talk about building your network over the years, what are some skills that you've brought from your time in business into now that you're using as an athletic director?
Absolutely. I think that just understanding the importance of communication, when especially in a community like ours, is extremely important, especially around, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a little bit, when dealing with a situation like COVID-19 and a global pandemic.
Yeah.
But being at some of those institutions that have a lot of people to do one specific job, right? You're at these bigger Power 5 schools, you've got maybe 15, 20 people just in fundraising. You've got 20, 25 people just in facilities and operations and things of that nature. And so being able to see how those places worked and be able to, maybe we don't have the same resources, but we can focus on the things that we know that we need to be successful. And from a communication standpoint, that's extremely important. Being able to listen to the folks in your department to understand what the challenges are to success, whatever that might mean, whether success is selling tickets at a game and increasing revenue, whether success is, finding a way to more efficiently and better run your game operations or something like that. Being able to listen to what some of the challenges are and then react to those in a communicative way and a collaborative way is really, really important. And I think that my experience at a few other schools that I've been at have really helped prepare me for, again, the opportunity that I have now here at Western.
Okay.
So it's kind of to build off the COVID-19 thing. I know becoming a first-year AD would be difficult in and of itself, and I can't imagine, the pressure and the things you had to deal with during a global pandemic. So, what are the things and what are the steps you've had to do in order to make this transition as easy as possible?
Easy as possible is definitely not the way that I would describe this transition. When I was announced, it was right at the end of February, and I came back down for the Southern Conference basketball tournament in Nashville. We were able to get our tournament as a conference finished. The next weekend, when many of the Power 5 schools were going through their conference tournament, they weren't able to get it finished. And from that point on, everything just kind of shut down. It's been challenging for sure. It's been a little bit exhausting, to be honest. When you've got 75 staff members, 350 student athletes, trying to provide them with clarity on what next week looks like when you don't have it is extremely tough. But going back to one of the questions that you asked before, is about communication and just trying to be visible, trying to communicate in any way that you can. Because while I might not be able to give you an answer that makes you feel comfortable about what's going to happen in a month from now, or what 2 weeks from now even look like in some instances, at least you know that I'm here talking to you. And so we've been, before I even started, I was announced 2 months before I started. We were on so many Zoom calls, I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, every single day we're on some sort of Zoom call about something, really kind of just hitting the ground running. And, many times when you go into a brand new situation, you're able to take some time and get to know the staff casually and understand about their families and what motivates them and their career goals. Well, we really got thrown into how are we handling COVID-19 today, because people need answers and want answers today. And so that kind of transitional period wasn't able to really be there, but I think it was good because I really got an opportunity to understand that I really have a great staff here, which is fortunate. You don't really never know what situation you're getting into because through the interview, people, have all their smiling faces on. Then when you get into something like this, I mean, you really have to roll your sleeves up and work. And So it allowed me the opportunity to get to know my staff really quickly. And I feel so fortunate and so blessed that I do have a good staff to be able to, and people that have been at Western a good amount of time, to be able to really usher through what's really not an easy situation. Just a couple of other challenges, I think, just the ever-changing regulations and best practices, right? So how many times do you need to test, and how many hours do you need to test before competition and practice? And, you know, what does mask wearing look like? All of these things, just being able to prepare for something that literally every single day you're getting new information on. The NCAA is coming out with new information on what you should do. We're having calls with our conference folks every other day or so, trying to figure out exactly what we should do. And then you've got to think about, you know, from a state perspective, the regulations that the governor of North Carolina has put into place that you have to follow. Then the county that we exist in here in Jackson County. So you've got all these different entities that you have to pay attention to be able to understand what you can do. And so, you know, it's been challenging. I think I used the term exhausting before, but ultimately, I think we're in a really good place. We're one of the few state schools in the system that are still doing face-to-face classes. Knock on wood, we're still there. Things have not been perfect, but things have been really good. Our administration has been fantastic. Not speaking about athletics, but which our colleagues here I mentioned have been great too. But from our chancellor, our vice chancellors, we meet every single Tuesday for 3 hours and and always have a section to talk about COVID. And so I think we've done a really, really good job so far. But it's not been easy. But I like where we sit right now.
Yeah.
So obviously, as this year has gone on, COVID-19, and then we've also had a lot of social justice issues as the year has gone on, specifically starting back in March and April. And then we had an incident here at Western that actually ended up being a relatively big event, making national news, which is never good for a small school like us. How is it being the first Black AD at Western, and then also being here during the height of, you know, social progress?
Yeah, absolutely. Very good questions. And, you know, I actually think someone told me at the conference office that I'm not just the first Black athletic director at Western, but the first full-time Black athletic director in the Southern Conference. Wow. And I think that me being here at this time for our students of color, and really all of our students, but especially with some of the social justice things that are happening. You mentioned the incidents that have happened on campus. Being a minority individual in a position of authority here on our campus is just, I feel like I'm fortunate to be here at this time, to be able to talk to students about my experience as a student athlete, to be able to say that I actually did walk exactly in their shoes, and have been on our college campus before, I think is comforting. We have had some tough issues. One of the things that I'm most proud about actually is being able to work with our administration and our students, especially our football students, started kind of a We United rally. We United, you know how we do everything in color, we WHE.
Mm-hmm. Right, the WHEE, yeah.
Yeah, which will never get old. I love it. But one of the things I'm proud of is being able to just be there for the students to support them being able to use their voices, because there's a lot of attention out there on social justice. Unfortunately, there's some individuals out there that from a social media perspective, they just don't think it's a real thing. They think that social justice is just something that is made up, and you know, and our students don't feel that way. And I think that they needed to understand from our administration that we are there to support all of our students. And, you know, I'm really proud that we were able to do that. One of the things that we talked about all the time is this is just not a moment. This is something that we have to continue to keep the pedal to the metal on, right? We have to continue to work in our campus community. And this is the students talking. This is not just me. I mean, this is the dialogue that we've had, is progress like this never has an end date to it, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that equality on our campus, equality in our community is something that we should always strive for. And it's really hard to define when everything's perfect. Right now, things are not perfect, but I'm really proud of our student athletes being able to kind of step up, understand the power of their voices, and be part of something nationally where they really think that they can use their platforms to make progress here on our campus.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, you kind of answered everything that I had to ask, but is there anything else you'd like to add about yourself or your situation going forward with being the athletic director at Western? Some things that you look forward to doing?
Absolutely. I think that being here is fun for me. I know that I maybe used things like exhausting and draining and all that kind of stuff. And those are just small moments in time. You know, because you want things to be perfect. You want everybody to be, you know, happy and know that COVID is going to be gone tomorrow, and the social justice issues are not going to be so draining. You want everything to be perfect, and we have to realize and communicate to folks, to our team members, that it's not perfect, but we're going to get somewhere together, right? Yes. This is not a time to be divided within our community. This is a time to have dialogue and have tough conversations. But in terms of things that, you know, outside of social justice and COVID and all those things, I'm really looking forward to helping our institution's athletic department kind of raise the level of our expectations for success. I want to transform our facilities. I think it's important from a recruiting perspective, but not just that, to where we can recruit the best and brightest student athletes to our campus to compete in the Southern Conference and for Western Carolina. But the students that we have here right now, just investing in their experience through facilities to where they know that they are at a high level Division I program, and the expectations are to be successful on the field. And we've got student athletes that know that, they want that, but I want to be able to make sure that their experience here is first class. And it is in most ways. Academically, we've done a phenomenal job. Stacy Miller and her group head up our student success program. They've done a phenomenal job. I just think competitively, if we can continue to invest in our programs through facilities, through the way that our teams travel, through just the swag and uniforms that our teams are able to wear every day. I mean, that means something to kids.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
It really does. I mean, it gets into their psyche that, you know, it's funny. I think what we used to say when I was in school here is, well, that's not true. I'm not going to say that. What I've heard before in minor league ball, I've heard this in minor league ball. You know, we used to say, look good, feel good, play good, you get paid good. You know, you wouldn't want to say that on a college campus, right?
Absolutely not.
No, violations.
Exactly. But that's something that, I mean, it's the same mindset. And I think that spicing up, freshening up an institution that is fantastic. We've got a great school. Western Carolina is a fantastic school with so much potential. We've been able to have a lot of success. But I want to continue to raise the expectations of what success looks like, how we're defining success. Mm-hmm. And so an investment in our facilities, an investment in terms of our coaches, an investment in the overall experience that our student athletes are having is really where I want to get to. And then the other thing that I'll say that I'm extremely passionate about is making sure that when our student athletes leave Western Carolina University, they don't just leave with a degree. Because a degree is great, and I hope all of our kids that come in here can get degrees in 4 or 5 years, and I think that's great. But leave here with an idea of what's next, right? Do I want to get into coaching? Do I want to get into accounting? Do I want to be a nurse? Do I want to be an educator? And have a plan and a network of people that will help you achieve that. One of the things that we did is we hired a director of student athlete development and alumni relations. And that student athlete development is about personal and professional development. And so one of their jobs is going to be to go out there, and if we know that we have 25 student athletes who are all interested in banking, we have a network of student athlete alumni, individuals that used to be student athletes here, in different cities, whether it's in Durham, whether it's in Charlotte, whether it's in Atlanta, wherever that may be, that are in banking. Let's connect them with those individuals right now where they can ask questions about what does a career in finance look like? Because they may decide after speaking with them, you know what, I really don't want to get into banking. I really don't want to get into finance. I know I'm good at numbers, but I don't know if I want to do that for a career. What does that career actually look like? What does my day-to-day look like? So that they can start to identify maybe what majors they want to take a little bit earlier. And if they're in the right majors that they know will support the jobs that they eventually want to have, then by the time that they get to be a senior and the athletics are not there anymore, they have a really good idea of what's next, and they're able to set themselves up for success. And so those programs are hard to put in place. They never stop developing and getting better. But that's another priority of ours as we look to kind of move forward here in the future.
Awesome.
So I guess for me, last question is a business question. Obviously, since the football season got postponed, Western and I know a lot of other schools are still kind of reeling, trying to figure out the budget, considering a lot of the yearly budgets are dependent on how well the football program goes.
Sure.
So with Western having 3 non-conference games and then adding UNC there towards the end of or early December, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
How is that important to the success of the rest of the athletic department?
That's a great question. I think that when you think about the revenue that can be driven from football and the lack of revenue that we'll likely have also from not playing football with fans in the stands potentially this year, with not playing basketball with fans in the stands most likely this year, if you take away all that revenue, you still have to run your athletic program. You still have to provide scholarships to students. You still have to, if you're going to play sports, you still have to travel. You still have to buy uniforms. You still have to have housing and nutrition. You still have to do all these things. And so what we wanted to make sure that we were able to do is not take away from just the base level experience that the soccer team's having, the golf teams are having, the tennis teams are having, and the football and basketball teams were having. That's one of the reasons we made a choice to play the UNC game. We asked our student athletes if they wanted to play this game because they're not used to playing football in December. But one of the reasons we made the decision to push all of our non-conference games back to the very end of the fall semester is to have a shorter window between the conference season in the spring and the non-conference season in the fall. We only have 4 weeks in between that North Carolina game on December 11th that you referenced and when practice would start for the spring semester on January 11th.
Wow.
And so it took us a while to really figure out how to exist in COVID in the right way. You mentioned some of those revenue challenges, right? There's a lot of testing involved with COVID in Division I athletics. I mean, men's and women's basketball programs, you're testing 3 times a week throughout the entirety of the season. So with all of those costs, if you still want to allow the student athletes to play, you have to have some sort of revenue mechanism, especially when you don't have ticket sales and maybe your sponsorships because of the lack of eyeballs in the stadium where you can activate those sponsorships isn't there, lack of concessions revenue, things of that nature. We wanted to try to supplement that experience and still be able to provide all of our student athletes with an opportunity to play the sports that they know and love. And so, I really do like where we sit. Our football team is going to play a game in, I think, less than 3 weeks now, which is really exciting. We travel to Liberty, first of all, and then go to EKU, which is a game that was obviously already on the schedule. We've got 53 freshmen, redshirt freshmen and true freshmen on the team. And so giving them an opportunity to practice with our coaches as much as possible during the fall also was a reason to move those games to the end of the year because you can practice a certain amount of days up until your first game and then roll into the spring season. We got a lot of young guys. I know they're out there scrimmaging again this Saturday that I'll come out and be a part of in terms of being an observer. And so all those things come into play when we're making different decisions about playing non-conference games and trying to balance the lack of revenue that we're losing from not having as many fans in the stands, from not having the sponsorship revenue, from potentially not having some game guarantees, because some of the game guarantees in basketball are already gone. The NCAA shrunk the window of when you could play non-conference games. And so many of the multiple team events, otherwise known as MTEs, are not there anymore, that we're going to provide some revenue to the department. Some of the game guarantees against Power 5 institutions are not there anymore. And so all of those come into account when we're trying to figure out how can we still have a positive experience, play some games in all sports while not operating the department in the red. Right now, I like where we sit. But with this COVID thing, you never know. Things could go left or go right at any time. But we're just trying to prepare for the best.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in today. Of my conversations I've had with student athletes, you have kind of delivered this sense of rejuvenation back into the program that they felt like had been lacking. So as a student, I'm happy to hear that. I love to see that, you know, our athletics program is headed in the right direction.
Absolutely. We hope so.
Yeah.
You got anything else,
Appreciate
Jalen?
No, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to do this interview again. It seems like you're very enthusiastic about where your program is headed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Western Carolina athletics.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you guys for inviting me on. I'm excited to follow you guys. I mean, you guys may be on ESPN in like 10 years. You never know.
That's the hope, dude.
That's the
We'll
plan.
find out.
So it's a good place to start. Now we'll sit down and do an interview at that time as well. So
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
So try before you die or always wonder what if. I thank the Lord for this wonderful gift. Looking for strength in this crunch time. Yeah.